Hello, I was almost preoccupied there, Andrew.
Oh, what was distracting you, Gary?
I was watching the show on my phone.
You're meant to be hosting the show, Gary.
Well, but it's a different perspective. It's always good to have a different view on things. I've never watched it. I've never watched the show.
Watch along live. Can I recommend that you don't do it? Because then I'll no have a co-host, Gary, and it'd be off exchange.
But I was thinking about multitasking.
Oh, what? But see, you'd have that strange kind of time delay going on.
Yeah. But I've done the phone thing before. Remember the Wi-Fi and all that conked out, and I had to go on the phone.
Oh, aye, you did.
But I wouldn't be watching it on the phone. So I'd like to do that. I'd like to try and experiment now and again and watch on the phone. See, how's it look? What's my profile like? I'm on the phone. Does that look?
Still as kind of bald as usual, Gary.
I need to be there. Like, I'm looking at the phone now, so that's me in shot, and I can just, there you go. It's like the Ant Deck thing that they do.
It's like Ronald Villiers.
I'll be good at that. Sharks and the Jets.
Boys are back in town. Boy.
Yeah, the Jets.
Sharks and the Jets. The Jets and the Sharks.
My favourite. You got a hat. Yeah, trench coat and a hat.
Get the scar.
That's legend.
Anyway, how have you been today, Gary?
TV mode up close.
Oh, TV mode on. Did you find out if that was just waffle, Gary, or does that have any scientific fact?
You know, it's the truth. It's in the How to Act manual. So on TV, up close, film, sit back.
Well, listen, Gary, it was a great show last week. We had the folks on from A True Mismatch, so a big shout out to them. They were filming in the town.
Yeah.
And if folks, if you saw them, give us a shout. What were they up to? What were they doing? I wandered into the town on Saturday, and apparently they were indoors at Small Shot.
Did you get lost?
Did I get lost?
You just wandered in?
I just wandered in. I came out of the house.
You knew what you were doing.
20-minute neighbourhood, Gary. I wandered down into the town within about 20 minutes.
That is very topical, 20-minute neighbourhood.
It's good, but I couldn't see them at all. Bumped into a few of our local traders in the town. Had a blather with them.
Did you buy anything nice?
No, but I've seen a few things that I quite liked. We're into the White Cart Company, so that was good. A few nice pictures. I know you've got an array of pictures behind you, Gary. But these were
all homemade.
These were Paisley themed ones that I saw, and I thought actually I quite fancy some of them. So, evening, folks. Good to see you all.
Good evening. Welcome to the show.
Indeed. Or as Paul says, all right, team.
Hi, my man. Sharks and the Jets. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Fantastic. We've also got Chicago checking in.
Yeah, it's always good to see Elizabeth checking in. How's the weather there, Elizabeth?
What is the weather update like? We need to know.
Yeah, we do need to know. The Chicago weather, we have to be told.
Hold on a second. See, it's a multi-purpose. What's the word I'm looking for? Tagline.
Oh, just around the corner. Just like a new shop that's opened up, Andy.
Go on.
You want me to go on a rant? M&S on Renfrew Road gave me a crick in my neck this morning driving to work. I was driving down the hill on Renfrew Road, trying to weave in out the cones and weave in and out the roadworks and weave in and out the white lines.
Right.
It's just going down the wee hill and couldn't miss it. It wasn't even out the corner of my eye over there. Was this big crowd of people, and it looked like the official opening of the couscous counter at Marks and Spencer's.
That's a whole new range of carbohydrates right there for you, Gary.
Oh, there you go. As if by magic.
Today is Marks and Spencer's opening day, Gary. You're right.
Aye. Yesterday. What was yesterday?
I don't know. That says the 26th of May. Is that no the day?
Aye, it is, but yesterday was Marks and Spencer's closing day.
Oh, aye. True enough.
If you want me to go on a corporate vandalism rant.
Well, they've moved out the high street, but Gary, I've got a confession to make.
Go for it, Andy. What is it?
My missus has already been in and done her shopping out the new Marks and Spencer's, Gary.
Oh, flipping heck, Andy. Couscous later for tea.
Oh, no, I had it. It was peri chicken. It was quite nice, actually.
Oh. Very good. No, we'll be up and down when the initial flurry of interest subsides. We'll just nip down. It's just down and round the corner. We'll nip down and get any couscous left. So no, all the folk from Slaughter have been doing.
Sold out. Oh no, there was no couscous, but she did come back with a couple of bags of shopping. So she's been in, bought, and said it was as you might imagine, been very well fitted out, laid out. Everything looks good and fresh and new. But of course, that Marks and Spencer's is shut down in the high street, and that's a big concern.
It's done, Andy. It's in rear view mirror. You'll not hear me going on about it anymore because there's nothing you can do about it. But they were on the news earlier this evening. Marks and Spencer's big story on the news saying they're about to even further downsize. So Paisley, as usual, are ahead of the game.
Aye, but I tell you what, Gary, there's a few things. There's a few things that caught my eye this week.
Oh yeah, I've a few things have caught my eye as well, Andy. But you go first.
Well, this is on topic of Marks and Spencer's leaving the high street, which we're saddened about, and everybody, as we know, moans about a lack of shops on the high street. And a new store has opened up in the high street. Some of you might be aware that the Buttons on the corner of the Cross had closed down. Well, a new store had opened up called Lighthouse Lighting and Interiors. Now, this was posted by Paisley first, and it was shared on some of the different Facebook pages. And I must admit, Gary, there was a lot of folk moaning about it.
And what way? Let's see if I don't. I've not decided yet.
Well, there was a lot of folk moaning that they didn't like what they had to sell, and there was a shop nearby that sold the same kind of stuff. And you know that it was folk who wants to buy lamps when you can go out of town and buy them online. And there was just a lot of folk moaning. And then Jean McDonald, as we know, a friend of the show, said that maybe not her type of thing, and she might not necessarily rush to it. But folk moan if shops lie empty for months, and then they moan when it's not to their taste and you can't win. And I totally agree with Gino on that. You know,
there is that argument. I mean, I'm still in the middle with that. When I've seen pictures of it, Andy, and I thought that doesn't look too bad. And if it's filling a gap, then fair enough. There's a but though.
Go on. What's your but, Gary?
Excuse me.
What's your butt, Gary?
There's no buts. No. I fear for types of shops or styles of shops or shops that have a genre. There's a word.
Right.
No, it's not relevant to shops, but you know what I mean.
Aye.
That a town such as Paisley should have aspirations of other level of shopping. And I'm trying to be really, really diplomatic. I'm being diplomatic.
Aye, I think you're right, Gary. I think, you know, the point is you get a lot of folks saying, well, shops are shutting down in Paisley. We need more shops in Paisley. Now, you and I know, and we've talked about it in this show a number of times, Gary, is Paisley town centre is never going to go back to the way that it was, where you had a bustling high street and lots of shops that you could get. That's changed. Internet's came along and changed all of that. Folks shop online, they go out to shopping centres, etc., etc. So our town centre is going to change. We've seen the proposals We always show this book every now and again. What's going on there? It's going to be mixed use. There's going to be a lot of residential going in there. We're obviously really behind leisure and community-orientated activity. But the shops are going to change. So the shops that we do have in Paisley Town Centre need to be different. They can't be just your high street typical ones, because you'll not see them back in the high street any longer. They need to be perhaps smaller, independent traders, things that you can't buy anywhere else. But I do think we've got an issue where we need to get to that, and there's a period of time that we need to work towards that. And what would you rather have? Buttons lying empty, or that store lying empty, the windows getting smashed, getting broken into, graffiti, vandalism, etc., or a store going in that's at least trying to turn a bit of footfall and at least trying to turn a bit of trade. I think you've got to, on balance, you've got to encourage it. But I get your point, Gary.
I don't mind understanding that we're in a transition, Andy, as long as we are in a transition. And I think the type of attractors that we need in the town will give us a different dynamic to that transition.
Aye.
So I don't want our town to be the type of town that you can only go up the high street and buy 3 pair of leggings for a tenner type of environment, if you know what I mean.
Totally agree.
That's not my aspiration for my town. It's a niche environment. I want to be able to go up the high street and get a pair of leggings for 20 quid. I'm taking a hope of myself here.
Stop digging, Gary. 3 pair of leggings for a tenner and a nice matching light and scatter cushion set, Gary. That's where we're at now.
And a free lamp.
And a free lamp.
And a free lamp.
Progress. But that was that caught my eye on the high street, Gary.
I understand. Transition. We're bottoming out. We thought we'd bottomed out. We're bottoming out again. The change in the high street is coming.
It's definitely coming. So, a couple of other things that caught my eye this week, Gary, seeing as we're on the subject.
Go for it.
This guy here.
Whom?
Did you see that, Gary?
Whom is he?
Well, it's a guy called Kenny Morrison.
Oh,
and he is a well-known Paisley bus driver, and he's been on the buses for 43 and a half years, and he's finally retiring. And I thought, my goodness, what a long period of service. He's shuttle folk about in Paisley. And there's been a few posts. Folk are clearly very fond of him. He's always got a big smiley face. And I just thought, we've got these unsung heroes that work and do their job, do their service for a long period of time. And that caught my eye. I thought that was a good wee news story. And good luck to Kenny Morrison in your retirement. Hope it's a good one, Kenny.
That's well done. Well done. Absolutely. Remember, we used to get the conductors all the time, and he'd sneak up the top and then sneak off before the bed. Get myself into trouble again.
See the confessions that you've had on this show, Gary. We need to compile some confessions from everything from the doors.
They're all made up. I caught Santa out because he thought I'd stole all the doors and truss crags and put them in a bonfire.
Oh, dearie dear. I know, nothing like that at all, Gary. I'm sure you were well behaved. A couple of other quick things, Gary, that caught my eye, because I know you a few things have caught your eye that you want to talk about, but
yeah,
I've got a few.
One thing caught my eye.
Go on.
The inclement weather.
Oh, yeah. It has been rather inclement, Gary.
That's my word of the week. I sneaked it in without anybody noticing. The inclement weather. And the first to tell me what inclement means officially gets a free three pairs of leggings. Three brune leggings.
Definition of inclement. It
has been rather inclement.
It's been pretty rubbish, hasn't it?
It's been key. Yeah, totally. But a change, like our high street, Andy, a change is on its way.
A change is on its way. Fantastic. Good to see a few more of you coming in, folks. You're quite right. Eddie, where I stay is, of course, Lower Glenburn. which is just round the corner from Glenburn. There's a theme there going on.
Yeah, just round the corner. Anyway, you were about to say what caught your eye before I interjected.
Here's hot off the press, Gary, from the missus.
A free bag. Staff are lovely. Most from the Paisley store. Is that you getting your couscous? Oh, well. Okay.
Cup of tea, Gary.
Just been doing the Marks and Sparks. I got my fragua and couscous for tomorrow night, Andrew. Can't wait to serve it up with a bit of creme fraiche. Anyway, welcome to show 57.
Where?
What have we been talking about? What's going on?
I know it's show 57 tonight, folks. Welcome to everyone. It's great. We've got a couple of fantastic guest lines up with a big dollop of culture on the way for all of you. By the way, pure brilliant. And speaking of culture, Gary, did you see this on the telly?
No.
Are you a fan of Tipping Point? Is that the one that you watch?
You know what? You know what? I'm going to go on a cultural rant about quizzes. Tipping Point is the least exciting quiz on the telly. See that guy that does it? He builds it up to a level of just nothing.
But Paisley made the tipping point, Gary. We're at the tipping point. Can you not see the parallels?
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't get a text. Gary, Paisley's on the tipping point.
Paisley is on the tipping point. I thought that's quite good.
Aye, very good. No, I didn't get the connection there, Andy. I don't watch that. It's total mince. Anyway, I should get a Bernard Ponsonby bit to have a rant about stuff.
Is this what happens, Gary? You channel your inner rant?
Aye, on a Ponsonby moment and ask me about Tipping Point. Tipping Point compared to The Chase, no comparison.
No comparison. Dear, oh dear. So, Gary, what have we got coming up in tonight's show?
It's all about culture, by the way. But is that the last of the caught my eye?
No, I had another one there.
We'll put it on then.
Oh, hold on a second. I've got two, Gary. I didn't want to hog the show.
Andy, it's your show as much as anybody else.
Right. Two quick ones. Good news story coming out of Fergusley.
I seen that. Fantastic.
Isn't that brilliant?
John McIntyre. Good work with John, as always.
We've had John on, and it's great to see the diggers in the background. 101 new council homes in Fergusley Park. John's been a huge champion of the area, and it's smashing to see that some of those plans are taking fruition and are coming to bear. They're breaking ground on them, Gary. Good. Well done to John and all the people at Fergusley. They've worked tirelessly down there to change their community for the better, and well deserved. Indeed. And before we get on with the rest of the show, seeing it's a bit cultural and following on from last week, Gary, obviously Paisley was the home of a true mismatch, which were the guests on last week. And there is now a crowdfunding campaign to raise some funds for a musical film about the Paisley Weavers, the Small Shot movie. Yeah, that'll be terrific. I've heard some of the music from that already, Andy, and it's super duper. So this is Tommy McGrory and co that's working on this one, Gary. Yeah, Tommy and the team at Loud and Proud are pulling together the Small Shot movie about Paisley's Weaver strike way back in the day. Set in and around Paisley, and they need help. So as always with these voluntary things that happen, and with last week's show, they had a crowdfunder, very successful. So we're hoping that the Small Shot movie gets off to a great start and is absolutely and well funded. Now they are looking to raise £25,000, so it's not a small amount of money. It's just started, so they've got 95 quid in already. So that's it's off to a good start. They've got some money in, but a long way to go. So, folks, during the show tonight, we're going to share the link to the crowdfunder. And if you want to see the Small Shot movie, then chuck in a couple of quid.
All good stuff. Slightly controversial title, that, you know.
What's that?
It's got an apostrophe in it, and there is a debate in circles, in cultural circles,
Right,
whether the Small Shot had an apostrophe or not. There
right.
we go.
Oh, well, we maybe have some people on tonight that might be able to shed some light on that, Gary.
I can see them kind of like that already in the green apostrophe.
Oh, good one, good one.
I never thought of that. Or I can see Liz on the Google. She doesn't know. Apostrophe and Small Shot. I don't know. Better fun it. Anyway, I'm fed up talking mince. I could do it for a living.
Right, go for it, Gary. Who's on first?
It's not the tipping point anyway, because that wouldn't be very, very good. So tonight's show, folks, we are talking about culture and all sorts of different levels and interactions and activism and cultural stuff. And our first guest is Liz Gardner of Fable Vision.
Hello.
Liz, how are you?
I'm good. I think there is a apostrophe in Small Shot because it's a small shot and
see,
Liz, missing. So that's the apostrophe indicates the LL is missing. So
you fell into the trap. In certain circles, that would be correct. But in other circles, SMA, as in small, is Scots. And it doesn't have an apostrophe.
Yeah.
I think we need George coming on to settle the argument.
I think so. Yeah.
I would have sided with Liz on that one because I would have thought that the apostrophe denoted the absence of the L's. So I would have been with you.
Andrew, this is the trap I fell into. Because I only know this. I only know it's a thing. Because I said that, Small Shot, you've missed apostrophe, and somebody went mental with me.
Oh.
Mental. They went, how dare you put an apostrophe after the SMA because it's a Scots word.
Well, I know who we could ask. We'll see if our next guest does know, but I know who we could ask. Lenny Soros.
Oh, definitely.
Now,
she's is it? Oh, I love Lenny.
she's great. She's absolutely fantastic.
Anyway, I don't think apostrophes were invented back then. I think somebody invented them after the disappearance of the L's and had to put an apostrophe in.
Might have been the case. Well, listen, Liz, welcome to Paisley Chat Show. There'll be some folk out there that know you. There'll be some folk out there that don't know you. But for the benefit of everyone, tell us a wee bit about yourself, Liz.
Well, thanks very much for having me on, guys, and it's great to be here. In your honour, I'm wearing my White Cart Company Paisley pattern shawl. I hope you're noticing that.
Yeah,
very fetching.
So, yeah, I'm Liz Gardner. I'm the director of Fable Vision. Paisley Buddy, born and bred. Really, really proud of my town. Have loved living here and growing up here, and have been saddened to see its decline, and now hopeful for its resurgence. Director of Fable Vision. We started off in Paisley Arts Centre, following on from Cartwheel. Cartwheel was in the Thatcher years, the early 80s, was a Manpower Services Commission funded programme for boys that didn't have any work, and they didn't expect it to be theatre. They thought it would be electricians and plumbers and woodworkers. So we kind of pretended that that's what we were doing. And we did do woodwork because we built scenery and stuff, but we made shows, and then out of that came Fable Vision, and the very first show that ever was performed in the Paisley Arts Centre was called The Vanish. It was our show, and it was before the Paisley Arts Centre opened, we were used as a sort of test to see whether all the equipment worked or not. And it
That's
did.
a hell of a title. That's a hell of a title for a show, Liz.
The Vanish.
Vanish. What was that about?
It was an allegory set in a despotic state where the government had taken all the colour and music out of the world and shut them in boxes and didn't let any of the people have any access to them. And
wow.
But
How
they enjoyed
topical.
themselves. Yes, very topical.
Mm.
You need to reprise that one, Liz. All these great words tonight.
Yeah. And then the next show we did was the Witch Hunt, which we toured all over Scotland and further afield. And then we started working in partnership with different organisations and starting to, I mean, I'm a cultural planner. I believe in developing what's already there rather than, there's a thing called arts and cultural development, which is all about looking to see what's missing. Is there enough dance? Is there enough drama? Is there enough music? And if there isn't, then we'll put some in. Where cultural planning starts is from the other side of the fence. It starts looking at what's actually there and then works and builds in that.
Yeah. Liz, I'm intrigued by that title, and I have been forever. What is cultural planning?
That's what it is. It's looking to see what the resources are, whether it's the stories or the buildings or the people, and it's encouraging and building what's there. So, like when we worked with Paisley Development Trust, we worked with the Paisley Development Trust, and we told the story of the Glen Cinema disaster. We told the story of what was the other one we did with Paisley Development? Oh, the Buddies, yeah. Buddies and the heroic buddies in World War I. And then we've worked with the Tapestry of Renfrewshire, set up that as an organisation, helped to set that up as an organisation.
My apologies.
So Renfrewshire Witch Hunt as well helped
Yep.
help them into being. And now I'm working with Billy and the other guys who are the team who run Creative Renfrewshire, which is a network trying to explore, develop and support what's already happening. All the groups and individual artists that are already happening.
Now, Liz, anyone in and around Paisley will know you from Creative Renfrewshire. You just mentioned there, and some of the other activity that you've got, and you know, you roll up your sleeves. You give of your time. You encourage. You try and get a movement of cultural activity. What is it within you that drives that? Because again, you know, what we've seen on this show time and time again are these fantastic volunteers who really believe in a cause and really believe in Paisley and passionately want to do something about it. What is it that motivates you to get engaged and do what you do, Liz?
I've always believed that creative spirit within us all can move mountains. And when that's encouraged and released, people do amazing things. Artists are really great at helping people to tell stories and also change the narrative. So, you know, if there's a narrative that Paisley is on the downward spiral, artists can change that around. And I think we've seen that with the Paisley 2020 bid, although we didn't win it. And actually, thank goodness we didn't win it. I mean, a horrible year to have been running a city of culture. But the whole journey was just so transformative. And I've always believed that that's a power. And if we can tap into that power, we can change people's perceptions of themselves, perceptions of their place, and perceptions of the world.
Yep. Yeah. It's overall, it's a force for good. And as you say, it's a lot about telling the stories, because Paisley's got such a rich tapestry of story and creative talent, Liz, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what the Fablevision Studios, Fablevision, the charity, does all that working in partnership with other organisations and develops projects. Fablevision Studios is our social enterprise trading arm. So we have long-term unemployed people, people with long-term conditions, and they work to give the charity projects film and social media, publications, all that kind of event management support.
Yeah.
But they also tell other people's stories as well. So I think you've got a wee film actually where, you know, they profile other organisations' stories and show them off to best advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That seems like good timing, Liz. You're setting the tone of the show up into the next wee segment. If Andy's got the right button that he's going to click and he's got it all set up, we'll show a wee video just now.
And this is the Fablevision Studios showreel, is that correct?
That's it.
Want to make sure I press the right button? Excellent, here it is.
Wow, there's so much going on there.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the Fablevision Studios. We're based in the Paisley Centre, next to where Marks and Spencer's used to be. So it's the studios tell the stories of other social enterprises, basically. So you could spot quite a few Paisley social, or Renfrewshire wide social enterprises in the show.
One thing I noticed popping up through that, Liz, was the stitching thing that you did, or you were involved with. Can you tell us about that, please?
That's the tapestry of Renfrewshire. Andrew Crummy, who was the brains behind the Great Scottish Tapestry, which we brought to the mill, the Anchor Mill. He had always wanted to do something in Paisley. He was really inspired by the Paisley pattern. originally. So we started working with some of the team in the Threadmill Museum and developed a group who wanted to create a tapestry for Renfrewshire. And it's all about gathering stories right across Renfrewshire and making a panel to tell each part of the story of Renfrewshire. So
yeah, I remember coming to see that, Liz, up in the mill, and it was fascinating, all the different panels and the amount of detail that went into it, and every aspect of. We've had a lot of Paisley's history, and of course the witches' story would also have been told on that, and you've been heavily involved in that aspect of Paisley's recent culture, haven't you?
Absolutely. The story of Christian Shaw, who really founded the Paisley thread industry. It all came. Paisley's got such a dark sort of underbelly of its history, you know, with Christian Shaw accusing over 30 people in the town of being witches, and 7 of them put to death. And then she and her mother went on and they did a tour of Europe. They found the Jacquard loom in Holland and they smuggled it back into Paisley, Renfrewshire, and set up the first mills at Erskine in Bargarran. So the whole story of Christian Shaw tells such a lot of Paisley's history, right from the medieval times right through to the mills. And Renfrewshire Witch Hunt tries to do that research, tell that story. We've had a wonderful intern from France who's been working with the group and she did a webinar where we had lots of experts talking about the same kind of witch hunting phenomena that went on all over Europe. We had the Witches of Scotland on. They're talking. They're setting up a national campaign to have these poor people that were accused pardoned.
Yeah. Are you linking in with Julia? Yeah, I know you're friends with Julia.
We're working with Julia, trying to get her across to. She was going to be across here, of course, this summer, but whether she'll manage across or not, we don't know. But we're helping her to scout out the locations for the film. This will be a major film by a very a top quality and well-known producer and actress who's based in New York. But she'll come over here and she'll film it here, and it will involve Paisley actors, Paisley locations, and will, we hope, bring huge investment into the town.
You know, Liz, me and Andy's in that film, and if you don't tell anybody, there's no many watching. Eddie's in it as well.
He's playing Churchill, isn't he?
I think he's playing Churchill.
I didn't know there were roles for baldy men in the story.
Yeah, the big demand for it. That's how we've got to kind of keep quiet about the things we're involved in.
Liz, we're very
demand.
Very versatile, Liz. We're very versatile. We can wear wigs.
I'll put in a word for you with Julia, but I can't give you any guarantee.
We're in.
We're in.
We're already in the movie. We're in the movie. Actually, we negotiated tough. We were really had to be top billing.
Yeah, it's. I think that Liz, the opportunity for that type of production to come to Paisley is great. I mean, we've just last week with A True Mismatch getting filmed in the town. There's been other period dramas that have been filmed partly in the town. The Small Shop movie that we've talked about, and then the witch trial project as well. These are all fantastic opportunities and a great chance to tell some of the stories. And you mentioned that sort of dark underbelly of the Paisley's past and Paisley's history. And I think when you look at the stories about Paisley, the thread industry is obviously a big one. The witch trials that were there as well as another big one. But Liz, what are the stories that haven't been told about Paisley that you would absolutely love to be able to tell?
Oh gosh, the stories that haven't been told that I would love to tell. Paisley's got the Glen Cinema story. We've told that, but it needs to be told again.
Yeah.
Nail in the Bottle story. We've told that over and over, but it needs to be told in some sort of bigger arena. These are amazing, world class stories with so many layers.
Yeah.
That Paisley is unique. I think Paisley must be unique in that. Certainly with the witch hunting one. There's Salem, which has a story about witch hunting, but I don't think any other town in the world has a story that's not just about the medieval stuff, but actually takes us right up to the present day and then beyond, because Paisley Development Trust put the horseshoe back. Paisley's fortunes have started to flourish again. Every time the horseshoe gets lifted, the fortunes dip, and we have to put it back and start working to flourish again. So to my mind, that is the best. Any town would give their back teeth to have a story like that, and we've got it. So I just think we should be telling it wider and further. One of the other things that the Witch Hunt want to do is something with the Gallows Green, because the Gallows Green, it's full of old mattresses. It's used as a dumping ground. It could be a beautiful memorial garden to these accused, and to remember the people who were murdered there. And that's one of the next projects that the Witch Hunt would like to take on as well.
I mean, you're quite right about that. That rich heritage, and we know those stories, Liz. But the wider world, I mean, I suppose the wider world, in some ways, knows about the snail in the bottle. But that would really make an interesting film in its own.
The cinema changed the rules for fire doors, because they used to open in the way after the Glen Cinema disaster. The kids were all crushed against the door. They automatically move out the way. That changed that. The snail in the bottle changed consumer rights. We have championed and pioneered on so many areas in so many levels.
And Margaret Scott brings up a good point as well, and we know that we've got a really fantastic art collection in Paisley, and each collection.
The shawls.
Yeah, the shawls and documentaries. So how do we start to encourage our storytellers, our filmmakers, our documentary producers, those that want to be in front of the camera, those that want to be behind the camera, those that want to edit? How do we encourage that, and what's out there in Paisley for people to start to get into that side of things, Liz?
Well, I think we're doing that, and that's really what Creative Renfrewshire Network was designed to do, was to bring people out of the woodwork and help support, network, encourage, celebrate, amplify the voices of, so that the talent is all there. We know that. We don't need to put anything in. We need to encourage what's there and let that flourish. Give it platform. Give it encouragement, and amplify the voices.
Now you're talking about cultural networks, Liz. What are the plans for the Creative Renfrewshire as we come out of COVID? Creative
Renfrewshire, just as we had been getting all these wonderful get-togethers, we had a few wonderful evenings which you were at, where we had fantastic opportunities of all that collaborative networking and profiling and amplifying, and then COVID hit. And we did a couple of online things, but we thought, no, we'll just wait until COVID's over. Nobody thought for a minute it was going to be 18 months on. But now we are coming out the other side. We've got Brendan Moon on board. He'll be starting them all up again, and we'll be having, we managed to have one in Lochwinnock, but we'll be having them all over Renfrewshire. Opportunities to bring people together, to collaborate, to network, to profile what they do, and celebrate what's here, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean that's a great message, Liz. And we know how much culture there is and enthusiasm there is for culture and the town. and it's about harnessing that. I think the future of the town and the periphery shows it. I think the town in the centre is getting hollowed out a bit, and will take a wee bit of time to fix. But that network of culture could be a solution to that as well, Liz.
And once the museum opens, wow, that is going to be spectacular, phenomenal.
Yeah, I think we spoke about that when it was the town hall special. I don't know if you caught that one the other couple of weeks back, but when you look at what's planned in Paisley over the next few years from the arts centre, you've obviously an area a place that you're very fond of, the regeneration of the town hall, which just looks breathtaking, and that'll be a real jewel in the crown within Paisley. And then the regeneration of the High Street, which Paisley Community Trust will be part of with our new digital community hub. And then all the way up through to the new museum and Coates as a venue. So when you think of all of that, and you've got UWS up there as a major stakeholder in the town, you've got the retailers, you've got the new owners of the Paisley Centre, there's great opportunity. Gary talks about this kind of bottoming out, and the only way is up, and that's clearly the case. Certainly there's a lot of people energetic and enthusiastic about making sure that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. University of the West of Scotland was the Paisley School of Art in George Street is now one of the buildings that belongs to the University of the West of Scotland.
Yeah.
First of all, it was the Technical College, and now it's University of the West of Scotland. And Paisley School of Art predated Glasgow School of Art. Paisley School of Art was visionary and innovative, way ahead of its time. And it was started off by the Paisley Philosophical Society, who I think you might have coming on next.
Well,
Betty doesn't know anything about apostrophes, though.
Well, listen, Liz, it's been absolutely wonderful to have you on tonight's chat show. People will know you from around the town, and we know how passionate you are about Paisley, and particularly the encouragement of cultural and creative activities within the town. We are lucky to have you because you really do put a huge amount of effort into everything that you do, and clearly through Fable Vision, telling the stories of other organisations and the rich tapestry that they have for the town is something that we all welcome and thank you very much indeed for, Liz. So it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
And we're really lucky to have you guys, and what you're doing and what you're doing with the Paisley Community Trust is just, I always say, I totally take my hat off to you for your resilience. I'm a huge fan, and I want to be part of this amazing hub, the digital hub, and as soon as it starts to get off the ground.
Well, that's great.
30 quid a fortnight for a membership, Liz. Right? Beautiful.
Oh, cheeky. Well, listen, Liz, in all of your endeavours, we wish you all the very best.
Thanks for coming on, Liz.
And we'll see you soon. Okay, Liz.
Thanks very much for having me. It's been an honour. Thank you.
See you later on. Good night, Liz. Bye. I was waiting for Liz to go 2.
Oh, she forgot about the 2.
We missed it.
Yeah.
2.
No, I just thinking about membership there, Andy. Do you think 30 quid a fortnight's about? I think that's on the money.
I don't know. We'll need to ask the audience, Gary, as always. But I mean, just with Liz there, you can see such a huge amount of passion and enthusiasm for Paisley. For Paisley as a place, for Paisley with its heritage, with Paisley with its potential. Every angle you can see Liz wanting to get behind it and encourage it and support it. We need more folk like that in the town, Gary.
Aye, and to be fair though, Liz is leading in a number of things, but there are people, Andy.
Oh, I know there is, and we need dozens of them. We need clones. We need, many more, and folk to get involved. If there are people, great. So get involved. That's something that we always encourage people on the show. If you're sitting there watching and you think that you can spare an hour, a week, an hour, a month, or whatever it is, you know someone that's looking for an opportunity, there's lots of organisations that are out there that would welcome that voluntary support. At Paisley Community Trust, we are all volunteers. What we do is in our own spare time, and we're trying hard to just move things along, spread positive words, and make a difference, particularly with the delivery of Pixels, which is our high street digital community hub and community digital cinema.
Yeah, and while we're at it, talking about what we do, then we're always looking for members. Members make a difference to what we do, and we encourage that. So if you want to become a member of Paisley Community Trust and you're in PA 1, 2, and 3, click on paisleytrust.org and fill in the form, and Annette will get it.
Absolutely. Annette will get it. And talking of Annette, let's bring Annette on.
You're absolutely brilliant at linking this show together.
Seamless.
Hi.
Annette.
Annette, how you doing? You all right?
I'm doing well. Yeah. I'm doing well. And
Right.
we've got some great members.
We have got some brilliant members. And you know, we had one of the other evenings a couple of months ago, we got to meet a handful of our members. Are we going to do that? Another one of them, Annette?
Well, hopefully, yeah, definitely. We've got some new members that we need to kind of brief them what we're doing and where we are with things and what projects we're working on and how they can get involved. So
and how they can
definitely in the planning.
Brilliant. Now, Annette, before we do talk about question of the week, usually you have a door behind you and a view into Frank, the resident show skeleton. Every chat show needs a skeleton, of course. But tonight there's no Frank. But there's what's going on behind you there, Annette?
Well, that's my. Wait, Nancy.
What has happened?
I have no idea.
Oh, nearly broken.
Oh, you're frozen. You're frozen, Annette.
Oh no!
Oh no, we can see it now. A wee weightlifting gnome.
Yes.
What's his name?
He's actually from Beauty and the Beast, Jim. So this is my trainer. I used to do some weightlifting, and I did a Paisley's first weightlifting competition, and I came second. But this was to cheer me on, to encourage me to weightlift.
Is it a door? Annette, does it open the door there? Does it keep the door open?
No. He just sneaked in. I don't know how he got in the background. I think that might be Stuart being funny.
Because there's been requests.
Well, he's working. He's still working.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. He's still working. That's why the door's shut in the clinic. So he's still working.
Working him hard.
What's his role? Annette, what does he do? What's Frank do there?
Osteopath sort of stuff. So we show people how to move their bones and get them back into the right position.
Oh, and Frank's well placed for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And he's well placed for putting them out.
Yeah.
Exactly. Jim, I like his name, Jim. It had to be Jim, didn't it? Yeah. Well, listen, Annette, you're here for question of the week. We had the question of the week last week, and I think you've got a new one to introduce this week. So tell us all about last week, Annette.
Well, last week's one was about Paisley. Does Paisley have what it takes to be a top Scottish tourist destination? And obviously, with what Liz was talking about, we've got lots of stuff around Paisley, a lot of culture and things like that, a lot of events, a lot of buildings. So the result was a wee bit surprising for me, to be honest, but I was expecting more yeses. But so we had 63% saying yes and 37% saying no. Yeah, so that was a wee bit disappointing, I thought.
Well, I think, to be fair on that, I think there's a lot of intelligent people in the town, and I think it's an intelligent response because there is so much on offer in Paisley, but the glue that binds it together is the where we are with the bottoming out, I believe. And when we start to come up again, and when the Abbey opens up, and the magnificent Abbey opens up again, when our arts centre is made better, when our library and learning centre on the high street is made better, when we've got a cinema and digital skills academy on the high street, when the museum is opening up, showcasing all the wonderful things that we've got, and we get the Paisley Centre fixed. That's the glue that'll take that from 66% to 80%. And all of those intelligent people that know we've got a wonderful tourist destination. The dial will shift.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there was some fantastic comments that came out on our social media. One lovely comment from a lady called Elizabeth. She says, we loved Paisley. Fantastic old buildings, gardens, friendly people, not touristy, but little gems just all around the corner, which is bang on just now, you know. And then also there was people just saying, we've got all of this potential, we've got all of this in our town, we just need to market it. And we need to get more campaigns out there to tell people to come to Paisley. So it's more marketing. We tell people in Paisley, but let's tell the wider UK, you know. So wider.
I've welcomed visitors to Paisley before, Annette, and one guy said to me, I've actually never been to Paisley. I drive over that M8 and I look in and I think, I wonder what that is in there. And the words he said to me were, you have been bypassed. So this, keep your eye on Paisley, this wonderful heritage, this stuff that we've got in there, never mind our industrial decline, if you put that to the side, all that heritage is sitting in there, waiting on a big sign going, come on in here, there's a lot going on.
And you know what, that's a simple marketing campaign right there. You know, getting it on the big banner as people are driving from the airport and to the airport is don't drive by, and show all of our, you know, fantastic buildings, events, all of these, and you know, the motorway, why not?
I think, I mean, absolutely correct in terms of that bypass, and that was always one that I didn't really quite understand, was the high-speed rail link from the airport straight into Glasgow. You know, to me, it was one of those ones. Well, why would you vote or support for that? Because you're really bypassing Paisley in that sense. I think they've changed it, that it's now going to go into Paisley Gilmer Street, but you're hoping folk get off at Paisley Gilmer Street and come and see the town. But I think you're right in it. Promotion of the town. I don't think we've got a tourist information centre, but if we've got an international. You know, when you look at what assets have we got, do we have an amazing town, cathedral, town hall, abbey, all of these tourist destinations that people would want to go to, small shop cottages and so on. And we've seen a whole list of them, quotes. I mean, we could be on all night talking about the great spots. So do you have great assets? Yes. Do you have an international airport on your doorstep? Yes. Do you have a major motorway connection? Yes. So Paisley is really, really accessible. We just need to get more tourists, and you know, what is the tipping point? Sorry to use that word, Gary, or that term, Gary. But what is the tipping point that gets folk, tourists into the town, spending their money, whether it's souvenirs, bars, restaurants, what, you know, entrance into things or whatever it might be? The opportunity has got to be so ripe.
Yeah, and as the regeneration kicks off in Paisley, and we're opening the new restaurants, new bars, you know, new cafes, and there's more people staying in the town centre. Pixels, as that develops, you know, this should all drive people to Paisley. Definitely.
Yeah, and since you mentioned people living in the town centre. Have you had any thought on that at all?
So that's my next question of the week, to be honest. So we've seen a lot of new developments happening, some of the buildings being purchased by developers, and we're seeing some of the work started around Paisley. So for me, is Paisley a desirable place to live? So with the new and ongoing regeneration of Paisley Town Centre, would you consider it as a desirable place to live? Yes or no? And if you say no, I want to know why not.
It's a good question.
Let's also have a chat about that. And now that we've had the surprise of last week's result, and I wonder if it'll be something similar with that. We're quite no quite ready yet, but we're getting ready type of answer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
It's all right to disagree.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the results of that one. Obviously, we don't need to, or we don't want to skew the results or anything. But as you say, there is a lot going on in the town. It was Paisley property prices were some of the fastest growing property within the UK. I think it was number one. There are investors who are buying property and developing new housing solutions. There's certainly a lot of interest with new developments within the town centre, certainly that we're part of. So it's been interesting to see what the debate is on that, and when Paisley does, where it sits in that desirability scale.
And do you have the VQR code?
Oh, I do. As always, folks, listen, this is the time to get your QR phone out. Are you ready? You should know the routine by now. Stick it onto your camera.
Works perfect.
Hold it up to the screen, click the link, and you can just answer that question right now.
And a wee bit of insider trading info for folks that are out there. See, if you want to buy a flat somewhere, buy it in Paisley Town Centre now, because in a few years, everybody will want one.
That's an insider trading tip there, Gary.
I mean, absolutely. See, if you want to live somewhere in the not too distant future, Paisley's on the up. I mean, it's going to have all that stuff that's getting built and regenerated, and a cinema right in the middle of it, and Marks and Sparks will be chapping on the door saying, "Can we come back?"
Let us back in. Well, listen, and as always, great to have you on the show with Question of the Week, and we look forward to next week. And the results and a new question. All right, Annette, you take care.
Great, Annette. Fantastic.
Bye. Oh, Annette's always got a wee bit of character with her, hasn't she? We've had Frank the Skeleton and now Jim the Gnome.
Is that his name? Jim the Gnome?
That was Jim. Did you not miss it? G-Y-M.
Jim. Ah.
Oh, come on, Gary. Is there a delay in Gala Hill?
There is. Anyway, we were chatting earlier, Andy, about something that we wanted to talk about before our next guest comes on.
Go on, Gary.
We've got something that we want to reveal this evening about the chat show.
Shock news announcement. The chat show season 1 will be coming to a close quite soon.
Yeah, so what we've thought is season 1 has had a long run.
We have.
We're in episode 57, and we're thinking this season we need to draw it to a close. So what we were thinking is that we'll do a few more weeks. We'll have good chat, and we'll draw it to season 1 natural close near the end of June sometime.
Near the end of June. So that's going to be the end of season. We're going to have a season finale. We'll need to end on a cliffhanger. And then we're going to have a wee break over the summer. And if there is a want, if there is a need, and if there is an opportunity, we're going to start laying down the foundations of season 2. But just a heads up, folks, season 1 coming to a close towards the end of June.
And fingers crossed, Andy, if and when we come back, we'll have no desire, or it won't be the same need to do the chat show, because we kicked this off because there was a pandemic and folk were in their houses and we were in our houses and we wanted to do a chat. So that was the reason.
Absolutely.
We'll probably end up doing over 60 shows, Andy, in season 1. And that difficult second album, that difficult second season, we'll need to do a bit of planning for it.
Absolutely. Jackie, yep, a wee break, a wee holiday every Wednesday night. And it's all the planning that Gary does before the show, isn't it, Gary?
Well, we've been both involved in pulling this show together for 57 weeks now, and it's been it's been a delight, to be honest. It's been great to meet everyone on the show, and it's been great to chat with all the guests. It's been amazing, and getting to know everyone in the comments and meeting some of you personally for the first time has been fantastic. But the nights are getting a bit lighter, and we've actually got some demands on our time that we need to prioritise. So we thought it was just natural.
And the other thing, Gary, is we'll be able to catch up with everyone after the break and see what they've been up to. It's like, see, when you've been away in your school holidays. Remember that, Gary, when you were at school, and you would have your summer break over 6 weeks, and it felt like forever. And then you would catch back up again. And that was always, that first couple of days back at school was always great. You'd be seeing what folk were up to, what folk did, and all the things, you'd have somebody come back to school and they'd have their ear pierced or their hair dyed or something like that. There'd always be these great stories to tell.
Or you forget everybody's name.
That's the other thing. And yeah, I mean, it's, we're trying to get professional with this. Graham Norton takes a break. I'm
thinking that I'll just come out the shower and the first season will have never happened.
So, folks, we'll keep you updated as we go on, and it's it's definitely in it's only a 3-hour show. Oh dear, and we're still working on guests for season 2. So anyway, folks, without further ado, we have a guest who's been patiently waiting in the green room, black and white room. We are probably going to overrun tonight because
we're going to overrun.
This could be a 2-hour special because our next guest is just smashing. So without further ado, we're going to bring on the one and only George Walker.
Hi, Barry. Thanks very much for inviting me on.
It's a pleasure, George. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'd like you to join in the debate initially before we get going. Apostrophe or no apostrophe?
I'm going with no apostrophe.
Oh.
Right, I'll give you a good reason.
Go on, John.
Curious coincidence. I'm in the middle of reading Billy Kay's Scott's The Mother Tongue.
Right. And
the bit I'm at just now is actually not discussing this particular word, but the thing about when Scots started moving in with English, Scots English, there was a loss of knowledge that the Scots words didn't have these extra letters.
Right.
So small was actually the correct word, SMA.
Wow.
But as things went on, people started adding commas because they were taking it from English.
English, right? Okay.
So it's this thing about English Scots. So yeah. I'm not saying I'm right because I've not got enough knowledge of the linguistics and all that. But
George, I decided earlier that you were the adjudicator, so I'll be having a chat with Tommy tomorrow about his apostrophe, and I'll be saying, Big George of the Paisley Philosophical Institution said you have to drop the apostrophe.
Does that mean I can't go to the bungalow anymore?
Well, you'll need to get in disguise.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be let in, George. I'm sure you'll be let in. But listen, George, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for patiently waiting when you've got great guests on before you and a whole host of other things that you want to chat about. We always end up overrunning, but tonight I think we're going to maybe overrun on our usual overrun. But George, some folk might know you from around the town. Some folk might not know you or might not know the organisation, the Paisley Philosophical Institution. So it'd be great for you to introduce yourself to us, George. Tell us a wee bit about who you are and introduce us all to the Paisley Philosophical Institution.
Thanks. Well, I'm actually an incomer. I'm not a buddy. I come from across the water, as far away as Dumbarton, which to me has a similar sort of problem to Paisley. 60s, the main industry collapsed, etc. Out of town shopping and all that, loss of high street. So I moved from one sort of area like that to another. I've been over here about 26 years now, so I'm quite well into the family. And I do have a buddy for a son, so not all bad.
Good.
But sorry, excuse me a second. So I got involved with the Philosophical Institution a few years ago, and now it's been going since 1808. The raison d'etre mission behind it is really to give the let people learn about well, not necessarily. Well, give me a second, and I will get the right phrase kind of thing. It was, originally set up mainly in science, because it was what they then called natural philosophy, which we now call science. But over the time, it's graduated, and the idea is just to help people, learn about things, etc. So, but in the original objects, there was also the establishment of a museum and a library, which obviously came about in due course. What we currently do is, during the winter months, we have lectures every second Thursday. Nowadays, in the University of West of Scotland, obviously with the museum closing, we lost a spot in there. So Craig Mahoney of the University of West of Scotland kindly offered to allow us to utilise their facilities to continue with the meetings. And so over the years, we've had a lot of speakers of really high international renown. We've had people like Jacob Brunowski, Hilaire Belloc, and Lord Kelvin way back in the day. More recently, obviously, we've not maybe got quite the same international reputation, but we have had quite a lot of local guests in here. Quite a few people have been on your show, like Caroline Gormley. It's been on Karen Herbison. I'm sure she's been on your show, hasn't she?
George, anybody has been on our show, as you will be aware. But what I wanted to ask you, George, pardon me interrupting, how did you get involved in it?
I was just looking for something to do, basically. I have got a lot of interest in a lot of things. I really like. I used to go to the Glasgow Philosophical Institution, or whatever it's called, and I wanted to do something locally. And I went along to a few meetings, and they were, and like most of these organisations, are constantly looking for new members to join their committees. So after a few attendance, I said, okay, I'll join it, and then I became the programme secretary, and then I combined that with the role of actual secretary about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's all about things. So what I try and do is try and get a mix of interesting guests who might be, like sort of, in March 2019, according to my list, there was an Andy, I forgot his surname now. That's terrible. Sitting there looking at him and I can't remember his name. So yourselves, you obviously came and talked to us about Baker Street at the time.
Indeed.
So it's to try and get that sort of local interest, but also some more wider interest. Like people talking about the Balkans and things like that. Because we've now got the connection with the university, we've actually been getting a few speakers from the university come in, covering various topics. So with David Scott, who's from the Pearl Fishers, he did something based on his Great Scottish Album Show. And we've also had people who are at the cutting edge of research for science. So there was one of the scientists who's looking at this unusual eye condition, and they're, very dangerous. So we've got these people coming from all sorts of disciplines,
all different walks of life, George. You've got a brilliant line on your page on the internet, and it says, "Today the institution continues to be a club to delight, inform, amuse, in addition to providing a venue for those who are merely curious about life in general." That, to me, I mean, my knowledge of the philosophical institution is exactly all of those things. If you have an interest in, anything from science to arts to culture to literature, the history of Paisley, but further afield, more international speakers, then the Paisley Philosophical Institution really is a brilliant platform for those people, members or non-members, to just enrich their lives with information, knowledge and chat that you can get from your events.
Yeah, that's correct. Because normally what we have is a 45-minute or so lecture, and then plenty of time for the audience to have questions and answers. So, and we're trying to entice people who have got an interest in things. We don't want it to be too high powered. We want it to be for the interested observer on various subjects, and we're hoping we give that to people. So, shall we say that there's just as much as possible give that diversity of opinion, but we'd also like to try and get involved with some other things as well. Maybe work with other organisations to see what we can do with them. Recently, Gavin Divers of Paisley Heritage has pulled together a video for us. It's on their Facebook page, which talks about the opening of the library and museum.
Yeah.
Well,
now, George, that's a great point, because I've actually got that video teed up now, folks. You really do need to take some time to watch this video. I think it's about 13 minutes long, so we're only going to show you the first couple of minutes of it, but hopefully what it will do is set the scene for the Paisley Philosophical Institution and the role of the creation of the museum and art galleries within Paisley. So we'll play the first kind of minute or so, and then we'll come back with George to pick up the conversation from there. So here we go.
Now,
Just a little flavour.
That's some film that, and it takes you back to some of the early aspects of the philosophical institution. And we were chatting to Liz earlier about some of the untold stories in Paisley and things that should be brought more to the fore. Is that an ambition for the philosophical institution itself?
Yeah, I think that's something I would like to see, because I think we're not as well known in the town as maybe definitely as we would like to be.
Yeah.
Because there is, as you saw towards the end of that wee snippet of the film, we have been involved in a lot of things in the town, bringing the first freshwater supply of water. That was one of the philosophical members doing a lecture after that, and the philosophical institution as a whole going to the council saying this is the thing, set up the water, the library and museum, obviously, which unfortunately we couldn't celebrate properly the 150th anniversary. And as Liz said, the Art School, Technical College, University, that's all a flow through from people within the philosophical. The number of institutions we have. We've also had, there's quite a few other institutions in Paisley just now have actually branched off from the philosophical over the years.
So, George, how can we help? How can the Paisley community itself help build back the philosophical institution? Because I was going to say it should be back where it should be, not as you said, it's kind of hidden under there ever so slightly. That story of what has been achieved through all of those people through all of those years should be higher profile, if not high profile, the highest.
Yeah, well, in terms of thing, I noticed Catherine in the chats had asked, how do I join the institution? So we have got a Facebook presence, so you can follow us on there. And we're also on Twitter as Paisley Philso, PHILLSO 1, and thing. Unfortunately, what we could do with is anybody who's interested in helping us improve our social media performance, because we're not very good at it, to be quite frank. I'm not very good at it, and thing. But so, and as I say, I've started working with Gavin at Paisley Heritage to help with that. But MD else who would think, in terms of we've also got, if anybody wants to email us, it's paisley.philosophy@gmail.com. So,
great opportunity there, George, for not getting the letters right. That's easy misspelt. That. Have you ever thought of changing Paisley Philosophical Institution to something else?
Personally, no. But we do get. It's sometimes referred to by some people as society.
Yeah, I thought it was a society. I sent a note to Andy yesterday, George, and I had to immediately retract my Paisley Philosophical Society email. My mistake. But that's really quite easy to do. I don't know why, because Catherine did that as well.
It's not, to be quite honest. I think it's just historically it was a bit more formalised. People that sort of thing. So when it was formed, it was by the great and good, really. Thing. So you didn't have what was then called the mechanics. There was a separate mechanical institution in Paisley at that time. Yeah, but it got amalgamated in by 1816, I think it was. They became part of it, and that's when it was sort of opened up to that wider community. And then, of course, it did take a wee bit longer for women to become allowed to be members as well.
Yeah, I seen on your social media the other day when I was having a look that was at the opening in the library or opening the museum, they had a specific ladies' ticket. Was that a milestone?
I think that was probably just the nature of things at that time.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of things like that. You can see that very much of its time.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have a female president until about 1995. Three or four since then. But there's that element of, where it came from in terms of the founding members.
Yeah.
As I say, and over the years, obviously, it's become slightly different. So there's no requirement to have any special knowledge or anything. We don't expect degrees or anything or people like that. We just want people who are interested in the subjects that we cover, and we're interested in anybody who wants to come and speak to us as well if they've got a story to tell.
So George, I've got a couple of questions actually, just in terms of the institution, because it's the deep-rooted nature of the institution within Paisley is evident in what you've done for the town in the past. The creation of the museum and art gallery. Well, certainly I didn't know the background story, so I'm going to make sure I do watch the video, and so much in terms of the promotion of scientific education, which is great. But I'm on your website here, and I don't know if the website's perhaps not been updated, because you did say you need people to help you that have got skills in social media. But looking through, there doesn't seem to have been any events since pretty much March last year, coinciding with COVID.
Yeah.
Has that been the case, George? Have you really been impacted by COVID, or have you managed to take the Paisley Philosophical Institution online, and it's maybe just not been updated on your website? What's been your last activity over the last year?
Unfortunately, we just haven't had that ability to go online because we've not got the technical skills, basically. The thing, so March last year, that was the last talk, and so how we can then work through that and try and find a way of getting ourselves out. I mean, I would be interested in seeing whether, as we go back, can we stream our show, our talks, etc. But, because what we've possibly not utilised, in fact, we're with the UWS, who have got people that do film and media studies. We're not utilising that. So, it's possibly, it'd be nice to have new people come in with new ideas, get a wee bit of fresh impetus, because unfortunately I'm one of the younger members and I'm not exactly a spring chicken, but so I know. I mean, as Catherine's saying there, streaming on Facebook would be good, and I agree that would be good, but it's getting that technical assistance to enable us to do that.
Well, listen, George,
sorry.
I was just going to say, over a year ago, two guys who were kind of a bit passionate about Paisley kind of had this idea about a chat show, and 57 episodes later, here we are, Gary. So it can be done, George, and there's. I mean, we'll be able to help and offer assistance and guidance in terms of how we can maybe help you, or how some of the community that we go out to. I'm sure that you'll get offers of support streaming in tonight, because I think it's incumbent on us as a community, as Paisley buddies, and those that now stay here, to ensure that things like the Paisley Philosophical Institution doesn't just die away because it wasn't able to change and adapt with the time.
Yeah.
So you've got our support for sure, George.
Thanks very much, Andy. And that's the sort of thing we appreciate. I think, being over the last year or so, it's, it's just been harder to do that sort of thing with the resources that we have at the moment.
Yep.
Yeah, so unfortunately we've got a relatively small membership, and obviously the even smaller active element of it within the council. So yes, anything, we're willing to listen to people. We're also willing to think if people think that we could maybe change slightly how we do things. Any thoughts that people might give us, that they would say, well, your offer maybe doesn't quite excite me just now, but if you did this with it, it might. So we shouldn't be sort of. While I think the res and detra, the main focus should always remain on the talks.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean we can not either do other things. Like we did have one at the start when we went to UWS, had an actual panel discussion on something rather than just one person talking on and seeing whether there's other groups that we can maybe do stuff with as well. We did have an event a couple of years ago, and I've forgotten Meredith Williams, is it, the lady who designed the statue on top of the cenotaph?
Yeah, cenotaph.
So Colin Begg at TH Cars, he had a talk from an expert on that, and invited us to sort of be co-hosts of it. So things like that, we'd like to see what we can do. In terms of the membership, we only charge at the moment. We charge normally a small annual fee of £15 or so, or if you just want to come into the odd one, we just ask you to make a donation to it. But so it is quite. It's not an expensive thing. We usually have 10 to 12 talks a year. But and as Jackie rightly points out, everybody's got to diversify. So how do we do that? And
I think even George, on your point on the getting younger people in, getting the social media sorted out, because everyone has to adapt and grasp the social media whether they like it or not. I think getting you out to that wider audience, because some of the subjects that are in and around the Paisley that you guys could and should be a conduit for, once you get the messaging right and once you get the message out, similarly to what the way that the university have themes, and maybe even partnering in with some of those themes and getting your brand up higher again, then that membership will grow and that interest will grow, because the stories are there. As Liz said earlier, people want to hear about the story. People want to be told about their history. People want to be involved in the history. So that all of that. We are. I think you're a member of Paisley Community Trust, so you should be encouraged to be part of what Paisley Community Trust is doing, and that to be reciprocal.
Absolutely, absolutely, George. I think just taking a wee look at the kind of website and some of those past speakers that you've had on, and the institution is over 200 years old. The contribution that you have made to our town has been phenomenal. So I think there's lots to do. There's lots of opportunity there for sure, George. And I think you'll have hopefully a few folk getting in touch with you after this show tonight to say either A, we want to become a member, or B, we want to roll our sleeves up and give you a hand to adapt and maybe do something online or whatever it might be. But let's think about life after COVID for the Philosophical Institution. I'm sure you'll be desperate to get the show back on the road. Is that the case? And if so, what do you have maybe lined up for us in the future, George?
Well, obviously, I've been in contact with a few people and things. So this is terrible. I've just forgotten her name. The designer for the clothes that you had on last week. She's interested in giving us a talk.
Right.
I've forgotten her name. She's in Twitter's Diary of a Dress Historian, Lucy something.
Right. Okay.
She was involved in that. So I think I've also been reaching out to direct. This is terrible, man. My memory for names is going really bad today.
We've got you on the spot tonight, George. That's all it is. It's on camera nerves.
It is a wee bit, to be honest. The Pace, getting them in to tell us about what they're up to with the New Exchange Theatre, etc. So I've reached out to them. Slightly biased because my son used to be a member of Pace. Although he is now, I better say, there are other organisations such as Starlight Youth Music Theatre, which he's a member of, and Dance Teams. But
you've got to spread the love, George.
Do you do repeat visits, George? Do you do repeat lectures of the same people coming back now and again? Because we might have a story to tell later in the year.
We would be happy to have repeat. I mean, because there are lots of people who have more than one story.
Yeah.
Just because you have been with one thing doesn't mean you can't come with another.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was interesting when I was watching Lizzie's stuff, the number of things that I thought that we have actually had talks on. Mm-hmm. So I noticed in the wee film, Dorothy Pullinger's name came up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
thing. That was a very interesting lecture by, about her contribution to the Arrow car works, and the Snail in the Bottle, the director of the Law Society of Scotland, came a couple of years ago to talk about it, and not just this case, but how it relates to current day consumer law, and also in the aftermath of the withdrawal from Europe, how that would affect it as well. So
fascinating.
These things, they're not just history.
Yeah,
they're an ongoing thing.
And I think also as well,
very organic.
George, the dare I say these events that you run are not recorded. When we came along to UWS a couple of years ago to deliver the talk on Baker Street, it wasn't recorded, but just hearing some of those speakers that you've had along, hearing some of the content and subject matter that they've covered, to be able to have access to that and watch that back at a later stage would be fantastic. To curate that intelligence, information, and knowledge that these people come on and share would be wonderful. So I guess maybe you're at a point where there is an opportunity to take stock and look at how online is maybe going to have to be taken into what you're doing, but maybe also the curation and recording of some of your activity as well. There's no doubt about it. In fact, there's Catherine, thanks for backing me up on that one. But the number of speakers that you've had on over the years would be wonderful to just delve back into, no matter what. So I think George, wonderful opportunities ahead, and I think what is clear tonight is you need some support, you need some membership, and you'd like to get the thing back on the road and coming out of COVID in a much stronger position.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much, Sandy. That's the sort of thing that we are looking for, is anything that can help. Because, I mean, I'd hate to be at the death throes of such a long-established institution. I want it to be outliving me by a substantial time.
It's got another 200 years to go, no problem at all.
It's got the legs. It's just getting them working again, I suppose.
I can see your website being actually a 200 potted year history of the town. Never mind an ongoing series of lectures. I mean, the alumni, let's call it that, each person who has ever lectured or told a story through the Paisley Philosophical Institution could have a button on there to their story out wider, and the central point for learning about all of that could and should be the Paisley Philosophical Institution. So let's see if we can get some interest on the side there, George, and get some membership for you. And what we'll do is we can follow up in the weeks to come after the show, and we'll have a chat about seeing if there's been anything as a result of the show. And if not, then we'll see if we can help you even more.
Absolutely. George, you've got 148 people who like your page on Facebook. I've just put up the link down at the bottom. Yeah. I'm sure if you just search for Paisley Philosophical Institution, good luck with the spelling if you struggle like me with that, but I'm sure you'll find it, no problem at all. Yeah. And I want to see those numbers going up from 148. George, it's been a real pleasure to have you on the show this evening. Thanks for tuning in and supporting as you always do. And we'd like to wish you and the rest of the team at Paisley Philosophical Institution all the very best going forward. George, thanks once again.
Right, thank you very much, and it was a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
See you later on, George. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
What a wonderful establishment we have in the town, and it really is. It's one of those hidden gems. Not a lot of people know about it, Gary.
Well, absolutely, Andy. When the backstory is second to none, actually, in anything that may be achieved. I mean, it's to be able to start off an institution 200 years ago and then deliver a package of change in a society. I mean, it's societal change, it's societal shift stuff that's come out of the Paisley Philosophical Institution. And it should be supported. It should be given a different platform. And George is looking for support. So let's see if we can give him that boost.
Absolutely. And even something as simple as Zoom. I mean, we all use that on a daily basis now, but Zoom, having one of your sessions on that, you know, is easy to put together. Although we've got to watch the standards, Gary. I think the standards of speaker are really important, but you know, Tommy managed to slip through the net there, apparently.
An hour and a half. I mean that's a short version of Tommy's presentation.
Oh, we can talk about time, Gary. We're way over.
Well, no, I was wondering what you were talking about there. The standard of speakers on Zoom. I'm thinking, is Fat Larry on his way?
Some folk will get that, Gary.
Some folk will get that. Maybe,
but listen, you know,
I'll be here all night.
You'll be here all night. Listen, we've spoken to two fantastic contributors to the town, to Paisley, to Renfrewshire, to culture within our town. This is the thing that we love about this show, is we get the opportunity to sit with really interesting people who do so much for the town, and we get an opportunity to shine that spotlight on them, to tell their story, and also to encourage you all to get involved in some way, shape or form. It's just brilliant to know that we've got these people and we've got these organisations that are passionate about Paisley.
Totally, Andy, totally. And the as I said, backstory, the hidden backstory of Paisley. I mean, if that story about the Philosophical Society get told in any other town, it'd be taken, it'd be grasped, it'd be funded, and it'd be pushed higher up the agenda.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that happens.
Absolutely. And you think about the comment that Liz made earlier about the art school being founded in Paisley before Glasgow School of Art. So we seem to have these great opportunities that just don't get capitalised. Of course, some do. You know, we're not saying we're all hopeless at everything, but you know, has been some real gems. What we need to do is just, you know, let them grow, let them flourish, and support them as best as we possibly can. So listen, it's been a great show. We've overrun, Gary. I think we've got to make a quick exit before
the longest show. This is our longest show ever. But it's light outside, Andy. I mean, it's quite something. I mean, you look outside and it's actually light. It's not a nice light, but it's going to be. Here's to turn the tables on my earlier caught my eye. Inclement weather comment. The inclement weather is changing. The occluded front that we are currently experiencing is moving on to a period of good weather.
Are you trying to take Sean Batty out, Gary? I know we've been trying to get Sean on the show, but are you trying to oust him from his TV weather presenting slot on STV?
No. I just swallowed the dictionary earlier on, and I thought I'd use some weather phrases like occluded and inclement. I like these types of words.
What about your cumulus nimbus, Gary?
I'm getting the cream next week for that.
Oh dear. Well, I hope the itch goes away, Gary.
Yeah, the cumulus is it's got to be all right. They said it'll be all right. I hope it'll be all right.
Barbecue this weekend, Gary?
Guaranteed.
Apparently.
Absolutely guaranteed.
Apparently.
The occluded front is moving in from the east, and there'll be a warm front from the south.
Oh, jeez, my goodness. Well, listen, Gary, before we get too late this evening, I think we will have a quick look at what's coming up next week, because tonight is not our 24-hour special, incidentally. But
no, it's not.
We're getting there. But what's coming up on the show next week, if we've got any plans as yet, Gary? Are you still working on those?
I'm working on those, Andy. When we'll be hot footing it to the planner straight after the show.
Fantastic. Well, listen, folks, it's been a real treat to have you joining us again this evening. We've had two smashing guests telling us all about their organisations and what they do in the town. Hope you're encouraged in some way, shape or form to get involved. But I think for now, Gary, in the meantime, it just remains to say, folks, have a wonderful evening, have a wonderful remainder of the week and weekend, and we'll see you back next week.
Yeah, I'm off to M&S. Going to see if it's still open. Different type of opening hours. I'm going to go down and see if they've got any of that full fat milk. The couscous. Going to get the couscous on. See you later. Good night.